We live? All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, August 25th, 2020 regular Selectmen's meeting. We are doing a combination of
There he is.
Zoom and live presentation here, a hybrid meeting. We have all of the selectmen present on Zoom other than myself. We have town clerk, town manager, and the town assessors are online also. Please stand with me and salute the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order is the approval of the August 11th minutes.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
I have a motion.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, I'll go through the roll. Is Ed?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Mark? Oh, we lost Mark. Is Noah?
Yes.
And myself is yes. As we appear we lost the connection with Mark, hopefully we'll get it back. That's 4-0 with one lost in the ether here. Brings us to the public comment. Is Patty, was there any public comment questions or anything sent in?
No, nothing.
Nothing? All right, I'll close the public comment section. We have no public hearing. The reports of the committees, we'll skip over that. We have none of that. Departments, appointments, presentations, and other guests, we have none.
None. That will start in October. Each department head is planning on coming or zooming in to address the board, give them updates.
Oh, is that?
Yes. So it will be a busy October and November with them.
And as I've mentioned before, I've already told the town manager that, to talk to the department heads about the upcoming budget season and how we really have to look at where we can hold the line and possibly cut, because I have a feeling that our revenues are going to be way down next spring. No unfinished business. It brings us to our town manager report.
Not a heck of a lot. We got a new closing date or move-in date for the fire department, which was the week of September 14th. I guess they finally got CMP to put their poles in, and they're not quite done pulling lines and things. We'll be starting Cranberry Meadow Road on September 14th to reclaim a section that we're doing. They did a great job on Cranberry Meadow Road.
Cemetery Road.
Yeah, a section of it. And then they'll come back and finish up Pine Hill to Worcester and Logan. And that's, I think, all we're going to be able to do this year. And they're already we're planning to look at Little River Road and Long Swamp, amongst others, for next year. Just want to make sure everybody's aware that the hazardous waste date is coming up on September 12th, same location. So if you have a bunch of hazardous materials, old paint and things like that, bring it into that and drop it off. That's all I have.
Any questions of the town manager? No, nothing. As we'll move on, there's nothing under Selectmen's communications. Other than I did have an email earlier about political signs being in public ways, as I believe Patty took care of that. The political signs can be on private property anytime, but in the right-of-ways and on public property, it's, I believe, six weeks before the election is when it's allowed. So, and that brings us to our accounts payable. We have a payroll warrant, number 11, from August 20th, 2020, for the amount of $68,502.61. We have a payroll warrant number 12 for August 27th, 2020, for the amount of $65,492.52. And we have accounts payable warrant 13 for August 25th, 2020, for the amount of $223,460.19. As I'll make a motion that we pay our bills.
Second your motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll go through the roll. Is Ed,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. That's 5-0. It brings us to our new business. Is the first item on new business is the 2021 tax commitment. Is
You want to start off, Paul? Where we are,
Sure. Yeah, okay. So you should have some spreadsheets in front of you that you can see that the town's total taxable real estate base decreased from 2019 to 2020 by $831,600. This was primarily due to an increase in the personal exemptions, primarily the homestead exemption, which increased from 20,000 to 25,000. In addition, we processed more personal homestead exempt applications this year due to the governor's executive order extending the deadline to file from April 1st, right up until the day of commitment. So although the real estate valuation actually increased by $6,912,700, the total of all exemptions increased by $7,744,300, resulting in a slight decrease of $831,600 in the total real estate value. The personal property increased by $806,991, which was a 16% increase from last year. The spreadsheet also shows that the 2019 to 2020 county tax appropriations increased by 4.91%. The municipal appropriations increased by 24.91%. And the school education appropriations increased by 3.49%. The TIF value shows a decrease of $9,837, which is primarily due to a correction in calculating the TIF value. The second amendment to the 2019 tax year resulted in an increase of $7,359 for the TIF due to changing the negative net change between 2019 and 20 the assessed value. In total, the appropriations have increased by 13.32%. State revenue sharing is down 9.09%. Now revenues are expected to increase about 24.05%. The homestead reimbursement increased by $177,651, or 56.6%, over the 2019-20 tax year. This is due to the increase the amount of exemption from 20 to 25,000, and an increase in the percentage reimbursed by the state from 62.5% to 70%. Overall, the total deductions in revenue noted on the warrant increased by $680,893.01, or 21.56%. On the spreadsheets, we're showing a range of tax rates that with suggested overlays. We're recommending a tax rate of $19.36, which is a $49,742,000 overlay. If there's any questions, which is an increase of from last year, which was $17.53. It did have the average increase for the median home price, Karen, do you have that?
Yep, we have that as $250,000. So based on an average assessment of $250,000, the increase in taxes would be $458, about a 10.44% increase over last year.
Anybody got any questions or?
I don't know about questions, but I'll say ouch.
Do you think we can hold the tax rate for another year?
No. We are, a lot of that increase that you see, the 24.9%, is we're using $974,000 of undesignated fund balance this year to try to keep it low. And we had that available. We had 1.4 available to us by policy, but but we can use it only for capital projects and items. So that's where all that funding is going. And
So what happens in the next year's budget? Are we gonna be $1 million shy on that one because we're spending this? Are we gonna be able to hold this increase this year for the next couple of years?
it really depends. It really depends on revenue sharing. We cut back revenue sharing this year. Even though we collected over $600,000 this year, and we budgeted $550, I cut it back another $50,000 because I don't think it's going to be that high. The legislature, talking to the York County managers last Friday. We're hoping that the legislature stays out of session and doesn't come back early, because we don't want them to fool around with the revenue sharing or and change the homestead as well, because they're going to be trying to hold their line. So, this year we had a lot of one-time expenditures. We had to change out the fuel tanks up at that was required by DEP. That was $100,000. We picked up the principal interest on the fire station, so that drove a lot of this. Plus, we funded the library this year. That was what the public wanted, so that increased it. And then the school had a just over 3% increase, which is another $285,000 or $81,000 increase this year. So everybody was going up, and revenues were going down, and homestead didn't help, and drop in values. So it's a tough year, but
Next year's gonna be worse.
I hope not.
It's all gonna be worse.
But
I think the building activity is still strong right now though too, Mark, so that, there are people they're still pulling building permits.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Office is pretty busy, so.
Yeah, but it's all what the state revenue, they're missing all the tourist funds.
Right.
The money the state has for us is not gonna be like what it used to be, I don't think.
I don't think it will.
Yeah, you're right, it's busy, but not how it was.
Yeah, contractors are very busy. Code enforcement is busy every hour when she's working. And James is there helping her, and he's very busy. So you're going to see this across the street project, Great Falls, will be coming before the planning board probably in November. And they expect to break ground in spring. So you're going to start seeing some building over there going on. So it's still a lot going on in Berwick. A lot of activity, and hopefully we can hold the line.
And unfortunately, is what we've been trying to do over the last several years is catch up for the hole that we dug in Berwick for ourselves over the last 10 years. We didn't do ourselves any favor by only budgeting, a little bit of money for the roads when we really should have been budgeting more. I understand at the time, it was when the last recession first started and there was a lot of uncertainty. But, we let a lot of things slide in Berwick, and unfortunately, the bill is due now, so.
Yep. We're trying to hold back on what we're spending on the roads this year, to leave enough in the pot so we carry some forward with us. But next year, we'll get into some of the things that we need to talk about the MS4 project and things like that. later in the agenda.
Any
Hey,
further?
Steve,
Yeah.
if I can make a comment, I know this is a big increase. I know it's not something we want. And the voters did approve the budget as we presented them. But with this increase, can we go back and look at the budget and see if we can not necessarily reduce it, but at least for this year and into next year, look at how we're spending and maybe do some cutting internally so that we've got money left over. We're not spending as much as we budgeted for.
Yeah, I can certainly, that's my job. I should look at that. I do it every year. I'm not sure where we can make cuts, but I can definitely make some recommendations again. We cut back stuff in the budget this year that we had planned to do. So we don't have a lot of fat. And the public looks around, we're fixing roads and fixing buildings, but I will definitely look at that. And I'm already thinking next year's budget, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a lot we can cut or reduce in the departments, but if they can reduce whatever spending they can, that would help us get through this year and into next year.
Yeah, we have a department head meeting on the
Where can we
5th.
increase revenue?
Huh?
Where can we increase revenue besides taxes?
Well, you have a big chunk of, not a big chunk, but the marijuana licensing, James is predicting it's going to be at least $50,000 a year, if not more. Depends upon when we get some of these new recreational places open. So that's a new revenue stream that we really haven't seen. And if we can get more businesses coming in, there'll be a build up of that, hopefully, but I don't think you'll see that for another year across the street, so. But we're still promoting.
So what, do we, on the sales those places make, do we get any sort of tax from it? So that the state gets all the tax?
No, the state gets a real estate tax.
Yeah, there'd been different proposals to allow municipalities to collect money, but it's never gone anywhere. You know, it always comes down to, you know, the argument is whether it's a tax or a fee. And, you know, if you look at things as taxes, there's a big group of people that, you know, no new taxes, no new taxes, no new taxes. And, you know, so the licensing fee is a different way, you know, that we can approach this. You know, I personally, I think that, you know, a local options tax, you know, would be really good. You know, even if we could just put 1% local option tax on, you know, these businesses, would bring in a lot of money. You know, a lot of other states and cities do that.
Why can't we?
Is mostly because the state legislature, you know, hasn't allowed us to do that yet. You know, we cannot put a sales tax on products, only the state can. You know, when Terry was working in Charlotte, the city of Charlotte had like a 8% local tax on top of all the other taxes. You know, so that's a revenue stream that they get directly to them and not through the state. So.
All the biggest towns in Maine are push hard to get able to do that because they're the service centers, and we're using their roads to come in and shop and all that, and that still hasn't gone anywhere. So the little towns get left out.
Right.
I'd say we set up a toll at the bridge.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. Any other questions of Paul and Steve and Karen? None? We need to have a motion to accept the tax commitment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? As I'll go through the roll, Mark,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
and myself is yes. Thank you. That brings us to
Thank you.
Our
Thank
water
you.
project.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Paul and
Thank
Karen.
you.
Thank you.
That brings us to the water project.
I sent you both proposals that I had requested from Ty Bond, who's the company that we have been using since prior to me coming here, engineering group, and also one from Wright Pierce. I put off what Ty Bond had asked to do with the 1.2 million for now and talked to the drinking water people, and they're going to put that funding on hold. And same with the main bond bank, the application's in, but I told them that the scope of work may be changing because the water quality that we're pumping out, people who use it aren't happy. It's very brown, it's consistently been that color, and we thought probably 3 years ago we may have made some progress with it, and we did for a while, but when these droughts come, it's awful. And the people from the drinking water program in one of the engineering groups thinks we need to try to get away from the Salmon Falls River. That's never going to change. It has very high manganese levels. So one of the proposals, they both propose doing some research on digging and testing groundwater aquifers. The difference between the Thai bond is they wanted to continue to research how we can remove the manganese from the Salmon Falls River to make it better. And personally, you're beating a dead horse. That's what I feel. We've been trying to do that since I've been here. I think the plan that Wright Pierce has laid out is to start putting together some research on the aquifers in the region and start doing some test wells to see if we can get enough volume and quality water out of these aquifers. And there's plenty of them around in this region. One of them is right near the plant. I'm not sure what the geology will be, but technology, you had done some of this stuff back in '89 and '86. The technology has increased or improved tremendously, and Wright Pierce says that they can do an awful lot of research just based on information that's already out there. So my recommendation was that we act on this with Wright Pierce and get going before it starts getting too cold and start looking at an alternative water source.
Any questions for Steve?
So if we did, Steve, would there be an increase in what the people pay for the water?
Right now, right now, we have to look at the rates because we increased the budget this year because I put a lot of money into the contracted services for this and some other projects that need to be done. And for what Wright Pierce is offering us is $7,500 to do the research, to start looking at different aquifers, and then it can go as high as $40,000 when we start doing test wells. And if they find a well that's there, then we can kick in this 1.2 million loan, and we're looking for grants. You know, I got James searching the internet for EPA grants. From what I understand, there's some funding out there. We're in a crisis when it comes to the water quality, but we're not the only town that is in that mode. South Somersworth spent millions of dollars, I'm not sure when, but to do that, to get the manganese out of their water, and they got lagoons and they got more land than we have to deal with. And if we can find an aquifer, that would be the way to go. Otherwise, if we don't find something that's right, then we have to backtrack and start looking how to get the manganese out of the water. That's not going to go away if we don't find the right source. But
Steve, is the intent to replace the river entirely, or use the aquifer as a supplement for the river?
it really depends on what we get for a volume. That we're looking at both. If we get a volume that will offset it, to mix it with what we have, they said that would be helpful. If we can get enough volume and quality water to replace that, we'll back out of the river and use just the aquifer.
What is it, 300 gallons a minute? We have to
That's
have-
what they're looking for, 300 gallons a minute, consistently.
Are we talking about piping in water from an aquifer to our current water treatment plant? Or are we
Yes.
talking about building a whole new structure?
Right now, we are talking about, we'd have to put in a pump house to pump the water to the current plant. And depending upon the chemistry of the water, we may not have to do much treatment. According to what I hear about South Berwick, they don't do much of treatment. They don't have to. The aquifer is pretty pure. Sebago, Portland water doesn't treat their water. They don't have to. So it depends on what we find. But I don't think it's going to be a quick process. I think it's going to take some time, and we'll probably end up using that 1.2 million in some capacity. But there's a lot of unknowns. But I think the place to start is looking at aquifers and see what we can find.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. Is, you know, like I said, I was on the board in the mid-90s when we were talking about or started the process of building the new plant, and we looked at, you know, getting away from the river then, and I wish we had, you know, because even then it was a problem, and as Steve said, it's just getting worse, actually. You know, it seems like we're having longer and longer droughts and dry spells in the summertime, so you know, I feel we need to get away from the river. Whether we can get away from the river totally, I don't know. No, I have a feeling we will always need that as a backup no matter what, unless we, you know, really hit a gusher of a water well. So I think the way to go is to do the exploratory process and then start looking at drilling some test wells. You know, that's what Wright Pierce is basically telling us.
Yep.
You know, whereas Ty Bond, as Steve said, you know, they've been working with us in the plant for all this time, and it's never gotten better. So I think it's time to look in a different direction.
I agree.
So looking through the two proposals you gave us, Steve, the Wright Pierce looks like a complete proposal estimate to get all the way through the process, whereas the other one is just kind of beginning steps.
Yeah.
So there's a significant difference in what the two proposals are.
Yeah,
What
she had
are you looking at us to do now?
Well,
Just a portion of it, or
the proposals are, one, to do the research with $7,500 to start doing the research, and up to $40,000 to do the test wells. And Ty Bond wanted roughly $75,000 to do a lot of research and really giving us just models. And that isn't the answer. You know, they put out a figure of 2.2 million if we did a complete overhaul, and it's not much different from what Wright Pierce is saying if we have to, what it might be to remove the magnesium. But the difference is that Wright Pierce has done these plants where they've removed the manganese and remove arsenic and other things that come up in the geology. The two proposals, I cannot see us spending $75,000 and not having really any gain in what we're trying to find. That's what bothers me about that proposal. So, and we've been working with this group, and we've made no progress as far as I'm concerned.
So can we have them come in and maybe come to a meeting next week or week after, Steve? And instead of Ty and Bond, you're gonna go with the other folks. Why not have them come in and we can ask them some questions? Is that possible?
Yes, you could. I just don't want the window to. I figured that we should get started sooner than later, and
Tell them to go ahead and we'll still talk to them.
Yeah, so when I look at the Wright Pierce proposal, so for the phase one study, it's $7,500, and for the drilling of one site, they're quoting 50,000, not 40. So I'm in agreement, and I think I'd be okay with going with Wright Pierce in the amount that, for those two, $57,000, one for the phase one testing, not to exceed 7,500, and then the test drilling, not to exceed 50,000. Is that what you're looking at, Steve?
Yes.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? As I said, I think we need to look in a different direction than where we've been going, and I think that this would be the way to do it.
Yeah.
Is we haven't gotten anywhere yet, so is all right. We have a motion and a second. I will go through the roll. Ed,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. Thank you. So that brings us to the MS4 project.
Oh, boy. The Moulton Street project is, of course, it's the MS4 federally mandated project. This is our last MS4 project that we know of, and also it's one of our most expensive. We have been having Malone and McBroom do all of the design work, and James and I met with them maybe a month ago and looked through their draft drawings, and we were okay with them. And Christy Rabasco, who's our engineer that works out of Southern Maine Planning and Development, so they're in their finals. They're producing final draft final documents for bid, and their estimate on this project, which we are supposed to do next summer, is 1.3 million. And I just don't see it. I asked Christy, can we push this off a year? This is not the time for us. I know I want to clean up and do the MS4 stuff. I think it's important for water quality, but I don't see we can't spend 1.3 next year. As we were saying earlier.
To maybe get the state rep to address that as a potential to delay that.
Yeah, she said that the DEP, she feels that they will okay us delaying that. So
The last one we did, we delayed it like 4 years.
Yeah, that's what worried me.
Well, I'm not worried about it. That gives me encouragement that maybe we can delay it again for 4 years.
If we have to. I mean, this is not a good economic time
No.
to be borrowing more money. I mean, the interest rates are great, but you got to pay it back.
Yeah.
And,
Right. I think we should pursue that avenue. Considering the circumstances, I think that's the direction we should go. This is not looking too good next year, and if we can cut in any way we can, or at least delay that requirement, I think would be significantly beneficial to the town.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think we'll have a problem with delaying it. No, it's not like we have structures falling into the river. It's not like we have a complete collapse of the system. It's just it needs to be upgraded. So
Right.
it's not the worst case scenario. Like I said, we let the last phase slip, I think, 4 years.
Yeah.
And nobody said anything about it.
Yeah.
And but I think we should, talk to senators and Congress people and, just make sure that we can get the okay to delay this.
Yeah, it'll go through the DEP, which will go through the federal EPA. And we have a project coming up in 22-23 with the Sawmill Hill project, which is a CATS project, and it's funding that comes through that will help pay for fixing that intersection so it's safer. And that's right within the same section that we're doing the Moulton Street project. So if we could push it off even 2 years and do these all at the same time, might be beneficial. And that's James and I have been talking about doing that. So I think it makes perfect sense. And just on that topic, we have bridges at least one bridge that needs to be fixed. We went from 20-ton down to 5-ton maximum going over the Diamond Hill Bridge. And that project right now is out being designed. And that's a 50-50 project. The state has the money. So to do one, it might cost us a couple $100,000, maybe $300,000. I think that is something we should try and do, because that bridge isn't getting any safer. So, but we will come to that once we see the drawings this spring and see what they have, what their recommendations are. But that's something that we need to seriously look at down the road.
All right, so I think we all agree that, we should pursue,
Okay.
see if we can get an official delay.
Yep.
So,
I'll talk to Christie. Thank you.
and that brings us to the pandemic policy.
You had a draft of a pandemic policy last meeting, and we had sent this off to legal, and she did a quick markup, and we sent it back to her to do a final draft, and we have it with us tonight. And it's much clearer what we should do, and it really follows the CDC guidelines and how to keep our employees safe and the public safe. So it's a policy that we'd like you to adopt. Do you want to do that tonight, or do you want to look at the final draft?
Yeah, they did just send the final draft. We haven't really
Had a chance to process it, but
I really, and, basically, we're following all the rules right now anyway.
yeah.
As the policy is written out, so.
And many of the towns in York County are using this format, and some of it we steal a little bit, add a little bit of our own, and so it's a good policy. So
Yeah, I read through it. I think it's pretty solid. So I'm fine with approving it. I don't know if anybody else has had the opportunity to look at it, but it's pretty much in line with everybody else's guidelines.
I read through it, it seems very common sense.
Yeah.
Basic safety, basic, routine stuff in the world of the pandemic that we're living in right now. Nothing objectionable.
Yep. No. So, do we have a motion?
No, but we can't approve it tonight. We're still waiting for one thing to be answered from legal.
oh, I thought that was the final draft.
The final draft.
What are we waiting
The
for?
email I sent you guys, I thought I made that clear, but that's
Oh,
okay.
you did make a comment, Patty. I remember you did.
Yeah, so if we could just hold off, if you do have comments or suggestions, just send them to myself or Lisa Eustace.
Okay.
But next meeting, we should have the final
Final.
for approval.
A final. Very
I know,
good.
finally, yes.
All right, so we'll table that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that brings us to our political activity policy.
This is another one that's been popping up around the towns just because of the political atmosphere that we have been in and are still in. It's really points out that employees, while they're working for the town, need to stay as neutral as they can and not express their opinion while they're on the job of who they support and who they don't support. Because people will take that as a town is supporting that position, when really I'm taking a very neutral position. It's not appropriate for me. This comes out of the ICMA number 7 tenet of ethics. So I think it's something that we can approve and insert it into our personnel policy. And
I'm less worried that the public would take that as a endorsement of a candidate more than if a superior working in the town hall is saying something or working for a campaign on their company time that might induce their employees, the people that are under them, to think that if they don't support those same ideas, that they could be subject to retaliation of some kind.
yeah.
So, I read through the entire policy. I think it's, again, very common sense. It's stuff that we should all know and agree to, in the world that we live in, and keep that stuff off the job.
Right. Any other comments? Now, this goes back to my comment earlier in the meeting about the political signs. I got an email from somebody, very upset that there was a political sign down at the transfer station and wanted to know why the town was endorsing this particular candidate. And,
Oh, Lordy.
I said, no, is somebody put it up there, and I explained the rule of political signs and right-of-ways and things like that. So, as Noah said, pretty much all common sense activities. And truthfully, I don't know of any of our employees that really talk a lot of politics anyway.
No, we don't have time.
So,
We don't have time.
We're on the subject of signs. I'm really kind of disappointed to see that new pot shop that went into the left of town hall. It's got a big banner hung on the fence, I don't know, maybe 15 feet long. It just doesn't look appropriate. You know what I mean?
Which
I
banner
don't
is
know.
it?
over here. Is-
Oh, the pot sign.
Well, that's something.
That pot place right next to town hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is, we have ordinances.
We do have
for
an
the planning board and code enforcement that restrict signs and banners and things, so,
I'll
Let's
see.
get taken care of that. 'Cause I'll take
Yep,
care
I'll
of
talk
that.
to Jen tomorrow
Thank you.
and take care of that if we can.
yeah, so. Any other comments on the policy and is,
Move accepted as presented.
is
Second.
motion and a second? Any further discussion? I'll go through the roll. Ed,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
and myself is yes. That's 5-0. Thank you. We have no quitclaim deeds, no abatements. We have no public for a second public comment. We have nothing for executive session. Does anybody ever have any other business or non-agenda item to bring up?
Tom, I just have one question. Paul got off before I could ask it. He was presenting something in front of the county, 2 weeks ago? And I didn't know if we had heard anything on how that went.
Yes, they agreed with the plaintiff very quickly, and according to the county manager, he was going back to the commissioners and talking to them because they really didn't have all the facts in front of them, and he was going to ask them to reconsider that, and I haven't heard back from him yet. But he seemed pretty adamant that the process of, they didn't really get all the information they needed to make a good decision. So that is, and I was asked not to go to court with lawyers. I said, thank you, I don't plan to. So I haven't heard back from him yet, Ken. So hopefully soon.
Okay, so that's kind of still in progress.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? We have one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, is there a second? All those in favor? Aye? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, guys, thank you a lot.
Thank you all. 7:15.
Good night.
7:15.
See you in the morning, Patty.
Yes, thank you, Noah. And one other, please.
I should be able to swing in tomorrow, Patty.
Great, thanks, Ken.